Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Thursday, February 8th, 2024. You are here in the Java Cafe. It is Thankful Thursday. I'm thankful for all of you that are in here this morning. Listen, do me a favor and hit that share button. We have, he just reminded me, he's a three-peat here in the Java Cafe, and I did not realize he's been with us 3 times. So, but we're getting ready to bring in the new, I don't know how new, but since he's been with us previously, he is now the new Commissioner of Probation Services here in Massachusetts. I believe in Suffolk County, but he'll clarify that. But let's give a warm welcome this morning in the comments. Let's welcome Brother Pamerson. Oh, Ifill. I think I got it right. Not Ifill.
Ifill. You got it right.
Ifill. Good morning, brother. Good to see you in the room again.
It's a pleasure, Jimmy. I got to say this. I have 2 favorite things now, I think. You know, eating a nice roast pork sandwich with some rice and peas and some cornbread, and hang on the Java with Jimmy. So I'm just telling you, those are my 2 favorite things. So I appreciate me being on.
It was the cornbread for me.
It's all good. I can make it in several ways, but I like my some cornbread with my food. So it's all good.
Listen, and you do you have a very interesting perspective when it comes to a few things, food, life, and whatnot. And so thank you, one, for that Black Joy this morning in that moment with you. But you're now the Commissioner of Probation. Like what happened?
Well, you know, a couple of times, I think the last time we were on, I was in New York out on a conference for the American
Yes, yep, I remember that, yep.
And you said commissioner. I had to correct that down to deputy commissioner. And so now we don't need any more corrections. You can say commissioner, and it is true and it is real. So I became commissioner actually on November 27th. Of 2023. So, less than 2.5 months now, I've been in the role of the probation service. And this is Black History Month, so I'm going to celebrate this proud moment. I'm the first Black commissioner in 145 years and ever in the history of the Probation Massachusetts service. 145 years.
So let's just do some math for a second. 145 years. Just off the top of your head, what is the percentage of Black men that are involved with the probation system here in Massachusetts? You have an idea?
You mean in terms of our numbers here? All depends upon court and court location. I mean, if you're in Suffolk, it is somewhere around 36-37% of the caseload. But traditionally around the state, that number fluctuates somewhere between 26 and 32%. In the Commonwealth, and if you go to the pretrial population and detention, it is even higher. So it's around 43%. But the numbers in relation to the population size is significantly distorted, and it is something that we here in the trial court, judges, clerks, probation department, at every aspect of the court system, we're really focusing on trying to understand that disparity and work to drive it down.
I'm sorry, I named that, and I'm going to let you go ahead, is because this, it's interesting, and you hear it a lot from more our sisters, that, being the first has its perks, but then sometimes you sit with the reality and when you just said that with 145 years, this is the first time a Black man has been at the helm. That's just very interesting. And so I could not let that pass, because that, I think, is a long time overdue when it comes to, as our Congresswoman says, those that are closest to the pain need to be closest to the power. So just congratulations. And I know a lot of that is your hard work. For me, that is very influenced by your philosophy in your approach to this work. So go ahead, sir.
So look, I mean, when I think about that, and as much as it is a moment to celebrate, I also, it gives me angst, because I have worked with a lot of talented, supremely skilled probation officers of color, Black, Latino, and Asian. And the fact that I'm the first non-white commissioner, as much as I celebrate that, I'm also, I don't jump up and around and cheer, because I know it is long overdue. And there are folks that I stand on the shoulders of a lot of talented people that have been mentors and supporters, and people who done the work and did the work and did it really well. So, my goal is to make sure that I'm not the last.
Yes. Listen, and I wouldn't be surprised that the way that you roll and the way that fate and things play out, that you pass the baton as someone that was in the system and has, arose and went to school and got the, degrees or whatever. And so with you now at the helm, and if you don't mind, if I can say Pamerson, or no, you know what? Let me put some respect on your name, sir. Commissioner Ifill.
Perfect.
What, with your philosophy now, are there things that we can expect to immediately change in some of the dealings with those that are involved with the system? What is different now that you're at the helm?
So I'll tell you the three priorities that I'm focused on. And I think they have, so greater and wider effect in terms of how we move forward, just not as a probation service. When I talk about probation service, I'm often talking not just about probation, I'm talking in general about the trial court, because we are part of the trial court and are an extension of that. And so one of the things that I'm really focused on, the first probation officer was hired in Massachusetts in 1878. John Augustus started the concept of probation here as a Boston shoemaker in 1850. And so what you're talking about here is not only the nation's first probation system, but one that has got a rich history of doing great work. So, but one of the things that, excuse me, we've been writing policy since, I want to say 1878, and we've never really done a major policy review. We've added to those policies. And one of the things that I'm doing, I'm bringing together a group of internal and external individuals to take a look at our policy about how we supervise, manage, engage, support, and do the work of probation. Because I think so much of the language that we have don't necessarily speak to the issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, even though the trial court has focused a lot of work and we have done some work changing. But I want to make sure that when you pick up a document, when you pick up any material, that even when we give it to a person involved in the court and probation, that it speaks to how we as an organization support and appreciate diversity in all of its forms, and that our language and our materials and then our actions as employees really focuses on how we treat people equally, equitably, and fairly, and how we determine, and how we focus on justice, access to justice outcomes. We've done a number of surveys here in the trial court, and even though we've seen some improvements, we know that our communities of color and individuals from disadvantaged and marginalized backgrounds still think that we need to do a better job listening. And I think that language is coming out loud and clear in a lot of the work that we're doing. And so I'm also interested in community engagement. I want to make sure that we're getting out as an organization and as a probation service into the communities, seeing people, and we do community supervision, but I really want to turn that on a robust head. The number one and primary condition in probation is report to your probation officer. Courthouses are open 8:30 to 4:30 most days. Maybe 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 sometimes. But and so we make people report during the day. They have to disrupt work, school, life. I really want our probation officers to be out and about in the afternoon, more than we're doing on weekends, and really stop pulling people in the populations that we see. Here's a data point for you. 40% of probationers nationally make somewhere under $20,000 a year. And about 43% of that group in itself make less than $10,000. So I know that these are folks that are working jobs, if they're employed, that are jobs that are difficult to, whether it is in factories, custodians, and construction, and jobs that they can least afford to take time off to come and report. And I'm not saying that there are some folks that we need to make sure they get to us regardless, but I want to make sure that we're a lot more flexible in how we supervise and engage and provide treatment and program. The last time I talked to you, I told you that we're looking to launch a program around mass health. We have now.
I was going to ask. Yes.
We've got 20 probation trial court employees who are trained to enroll individuals into mass health. We've had more than 225 referrals. We've enrolled 55 individuals into mass health. We've assisted another 15 to 20 in re-enrolling, and we're working with others to answer questions or provide them with instructions on how they can check into their insurance. That is not a court system. Does it sound like a court system? Does it sound like a probation service? We're in the behavioral health in a strong partnership with Mass Health. We're spending, again, $15 million in sober housing and short-term housing for individuals coming out of post-release, parole, as well as on probation. And so we're doing things that are not what we call criminal justice involved. We are really a service entity much more now than a probation service.
So thank you for the update. There's a whole lot to unpack there. But one of the first things I want to acknowledge is that you are putting sort of your philosophy. It will end up being sort of in writing as a policy.
Yes.
Not your counterpart, but a division of criminal justice or law enforcement is the district attorney. And a couple of years ago, when a lot was going on, there was a lot of concern from community because there could be ambiguity between the ADAs based on how they interpret a philosophy they hear. And so I won't go into the minutia of the details of the DA thing, but one thing that will be solid for your folks is that once this policy review is done and you update and get policies out, each probation officer has a point of reference. They have something in writing that necessarily leaves less room for interpretation, which can lend to whether they violate someone or whether they give them the opposite of what I guess violation is.
Well, let me talk to you quick about violations. Massachusetts, in 2018 and 19, the Pew Center, as well as the Council for State Governments, took a look at violations, and we are ranked, if not one or number two. Hawaii sometimes might be slightly higher, but we violate the least amount of people and send them to prison or jail. And so Massachusetts is one of that. That said, there are still some issues that we need to address. The ratio of individuals who are being violated for non-criminal offenses is 2 to 1, the ratio of that of individuals who are committing new offenses. And so one of the things that we're trying to do now as an organization and as a trial court, because judges have spoken often about this as well across the Superior District, municipal and juvenile courts, about this issue of violations. And so what we're trying to do is reduce that. We want to reward people for doing well. We want to look at how we can work with probationers and district attorneys' offices to determine, look, if you've got somebody in probation for 2.5 years, they've done 18, 20 months of non-violation conditions, can we take a hard look at things like that? We're providing a lot of treatment and programs. So we're looking to reduce that. We want to look at graduated approaches to non-compliance. We want to know if this is willful conduct versus life sometimes being part of that. If people have got to work, they've got childcare, they've got healthcare, they've got transportation issues, that person doesn't need to be in a violation. I mean, if you're not going to programming or you're not responding or you're not doing what you're supposed to, look, there are conditions set and enforced by the court that we need to enforce. But we're trying to discern and drill down a lot deeper into understanding people's thinking behind violations, and we need to get a better job. But my goal is to reduce that even further. The other thing that I really want to mention to you, Jimmy, you heard a lot about ceilings and different things.
Yes.
Last year, we had 6,000 petitions, which meant that we sealed more than 53,490 charges. We're doing things to create the pathways, remove a lot of the barriers. But going back to this issue of violations, it is something that is number one on my radar as commissioner, and that is the rest of the chief justices as well as the entire trial court. We want to understand that because we're about the trial court, Supreme Judicial Court Chief Justice Kimberly Budd just put out some new, along with the Supreme SJC, put out new standards of substance abuse and mental health that focuses predominantly on treatment and services and helping people to be successful. We understand the dynamics and the challenges of folks with mental health issues and substance use, and we're treating it as a disease within the court system, which I think is, in many ways, I don't want to say revolutionary, but it is really changing the dynamics of how we see individuals coming into the system.
Commissioner, not only coming into the system, but coming into the system and a result of that leaving Mass and Cass. I had the mayor on yesterday, and I don't know if you going to South Bay or whatever, just checking in, whatever, but I don't know if you've been around there.
People there all the time.
Yeah, but that area is not what it used to be. And so how long has it been since I think you said Chief Justice Budd or what is the proper term? Justice Budd. How long has it been since she's incorporated that philosophy mixed with what the city has done? I'm just trying to gauge the impact on what you all are doing once they get the service from the city. If by any chance they're in the system, you all are taking a different approach that is also helping get them in the services. So I'm trying to gauge the impact of what you all are doing on what we see or now don't see over in the Mass and Cass area.
Well, look, I mean, we've always, the SJC had standards in place more than 10 years. This is a revision to reflect, the ongoing growth and development and understanding of what the knowledge and the science tells us. Yes, about addiction and mental health and co-occurring disorders, and how more often than not, if you don't treat the mental health, then the co-occurring the substance use is really, I don't want to say self-medication, but there's a lot of different dynamics going on there. And so the court is really looking to drill down and really understand this, and again, provide kinds of all of the supports and opportunities for people to be successful. We're also working with Commissioner Boyle from the Department of Mental Health and her team of Crystal Collier, Chief of Staff, to, see where we can partner and continue to build and expand. Probation at heart and the trial court at heart have always relied on external community agencies as partners. Yeah. You mentioned the DA. I had a meeting about a month ago with the district attorney, Kevin Hayden, and one of the things that he's really focusing on, this aspect of emerging adults, 18 to 24-year-olds, he's interested in employment, jobs, job training, vocational education. That doesn't sound like a district attorney, does it? When you think about what, they're looking to do on their end, more expansion of diversion, I think what you were seeing really is a sea change within the system and across the system. I know you heard that, that the governor's closing, the Concord facilities. And a lot of that is a direct relation of a lot of the work that we're doing collectively. I mean, DAs as well as the court system and probation. One of the things that, if you read the Massing report that they just published, as part of 2018 criminal justice reform, there have been significant declines in the incarceration rate in Massachusetts, almost by half.
Yes.
And a lot of that is the work that is happening here on the front end. And then when we do get people at reentry, spending a lot of time trying to find people employment, housing, treatment services. All of these are things that we're doing collectively to really enhance the system or improve it overall.
It really is remarkable to hear that. Senator Liz Miranda, toward the end of December, we were at an event and she talked about the fact that the system is trying to catch up with the fact that as much of the system is not needed when it comes to incarceration, because the amount of incarcerations have decreased, but yet and still we have some advocating for more prisons, and things like that. So the numbers don't lie, you know what I mean? And so if our governor is closing a facility, just generally speaking, I don't think we need new ones.
So I'm going to stay on the political hotbeds and talk about where I think, our best efforts and work.
Yes, sir. Yes, Commissioner.
Our philosophy at the end of the day is, how we serve the Commonwealth and how,
yes, sir.
I don't care if you're Gloucester, down in Orange, Northern Berkshire, Suffolk, Lowell, Lawrence, Brockton, New Bedford, the Cape and Islands. Our goal really is about people first, treatment first. We know what our standards are when people are non-compliant, and maybe we do it a little too well there. But at the same time, they're no different than you and I. We just might have made best decisions at some points, or somebody might have been there to help us intervene. And so I think a lot of this really at the end of the day is how, again, we develop a higher level of empathy and understanding into why people end up in the system. The issue of poverty is a massive driver.
Yes, sir.
And so we need to find people housing and employment, and if we can get them education, those are factors that are fundamental to reducing recidivism.
Commissioner, I want to go back to your first pillar or your first priority. What is the time frame, and when do you think we'll be able to have you back and hear your report and findings from the policies? And then do you foresee a process of you being able to just incorporate some policy changes, or do you have to go through legislation and things like that? Because I'm sure you're going to, knowing you, you're probably going to have 3, 4, maybe 5 bullets that you might want to change in the policy. What is that process, and when can we expect to get an update?
So look, here's what I'll say to you, because policy review and development can take long. So I'm saying to you up front now, we're looking at a 12 to 18 month process, but I think along the pathway, there are things that we're going to be doing. Look, again, we've got, the binder is so thick that I need to be working out to just lift it. That's how heavy the policy binder is. And so my thing is, if we've got to ask why we have this policy, then maybe we don't need it. And so part of this really is bringing that team together, bringing people from the field who have to work with it, who have to implement it, to help redraft and rewrite it. We'll get a lot of output from the court and the judges and the chief justices in that space to talk about things that are important, because once we do this, we want to make sure that it is reflective of all of the work of the trial court and not just probation, but then all of the best science and practices and evidence-based practices that we work. So I think, but a core part of this really is, how we supervise individuals. Yes. Things like frequency of contact, all ORAS assessment that sometimes can have consequence for individuals if you live in urban areas, or if you've had family members, who've been criminally involved, or friends like that. And we need to look at that residence. If one of the questions asks if you live in a high drug area. And the problem with that is, where's a high drug area anywhere, right? I don't necessarily know where the high drug, drugs are common everywhere.
That's right.
And so this idea that there is that because you live in certain environments, they may have, and so those are sort of some of the small things that may not seem like a lot, but that might be the difference between you being supervised at a minimum, moderate, high or very high standard. And so some of these things, if you're a young man or woman of color, your potential for contact with the police and law enforcement can be higher due to the nature of how, the structures that we have in place. And again, this isn't a knock on that. This is just a reality of crime and justice and punishment in the United States. We need to look at all of those factors and come up with better systems of how we evaluate and determine the kinds of conditions that we suppose. The other thing that, and I need to say this to you, Chief Justice Heidelberg is the new Chief Justice of the Administrative office of the trial court, and one of the things on her radar, and we've been talking about the number of conditions that you walk away from just by being placed on probation. And we really want to focus as a policy move to take a look at those, reduce those number of conditions to only the conditions that are required to get you to be successful while you're on probation.
I'm sorry, that got me a little bit excited because I'm thinking about somebody that's coming in, and I used to see on a DYS level when those young people would walk out, I think there was GCL or something like that. It breeds anxiety. And so for the piece that you're talking about, meeting folks in a wellness space and helping them either remain mentally well or address their mental illness, that's huge, because if it's your first time on probation, you get the list and I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, and then for some at worse, it may induce a mentality, well, as the young people say, WTF, and they may at worst spiral down because they feel like they can't live up to those conditions. So that's huge.
Well, look, again, we have spent a lot of money and time training probation officers. I'm sorry about the noise in the background.
No, you're fine. Listen, that's work. You coming in, yeah. That's somebody probably trying to need some support for something from you.
So we spend a lot of time training people to understand, training people to be engaged, and again, processing people. This issue of anxiety and mental health and trauma is real for us. Vicarious trauma is a natural part of the process. And that's where one of the things that I didn't get to talk about really is about how we improve employee morale and satisfaction. The pandemic has been devastating for a lot of individuals. There's been a lot of loss within our own trial court family, as well as many of the people that we supervise. Remember, we supervise some of the most vulnerable health-related folks. And so we need to really be able to have teams and people who understand that. And I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. We talk a lot about empathy and understanding. And my thing about that is if I have to tell you I'm empathetic and understanding, then that's not real empathy. Empathy is through our actions, through our work, how we support, how we engage, how we treat people. And I think that is really what we are seeing in the trial court. The trial court has invested a lot of money on racial and ethnic disparity in sentencing and understand that, and training our staff to understand the historical factors. We have trained all 1,800 probation officers on racial and ethnic disparity. The trial court just trained more than 6,000 employees on understanding race and the impact of race and how it plays out, called full court press, and they're moving into the second phase. Again, not a lot of court systems anywhere in the country can top that or talk about that and address it in the way that we're doing.
So one thing we're going to get back and unpack that, but did you ever is one of your other titles professor?
Yeah. So you're gonna have, how much time you have, Jimmy? So yeah, I've been teaching at Stonehill College for the last 4.5 years, and I've been at Suffolk for the last 23. And so
23.
Yeah. So, I'm not teaching this semester, but I'm making some transitions, but I'm teaching 2 courses currently on probation and parole, one on probation and parole, and then another one on race, racial justice, and equity in the United States. And so a big part, I see Charlene Chanel is just one of my most successful students.
Listen, just this, she just left the city. She took a big step and left the city, but I've known her since she was a teen. And brother, when I tell you that she is doing it in so many levels. And so Charlene, we just want to shout you. She's making her Black history, not just this month, but all the time.
I keep following on LinkedIn, and I can't keep track of all the innovative and ingenuitive things she's doing. But but yeah, so thanks for the shout out.
I had to chime in. I'll get you back on focus.
Yeah, I've taught such a wide variety of courses, over the years, youth, at the graduate level and undergraduate level, youth programming, white collar crime, which we now call occupational crime, race and racial justice, probation and parole, youth gangs, American street gangs, victims of violence, which was one of my favorite things to do. But look, I spent a lot of time talking and connecting students with internships in the court system, because one of the things that I need to say about the trial court, about the average age of a trial court employee is 58, 59 years old. Don't go tell anybody I said how old they were, but what I'm saying to you, that there's a lot of turnover coming in the system, and so we're bringing in a lot of talented, youthful, dynamic individuals. By the way, the probation officer exam, the closing date is the 21st for folks to register, and I want to make sure, especially for many of our young men and women of color who are looking for careers, we're looking for all races, ethnicities, gender, but we particularly need to continue to grow and develop a diverse staff. And so if you can put the shout out, please do, if you've got folks that are interested. But on the teaching realm, I think that is where I go to relax and have fun and engage young minds and talk to students about careers within the criminal justice field.
I am putting that link up right now as we speak.
Okay.
This is the link. And it's so interesting because I think the same with the turnover of what you speak. I think that the generation that's coming in to probation is coming in with life experience and a lens through, depending on where they are coming in after their career, their particular age, but post George Floyd, post pandemic. And I think that philosophy, those potential philosophies and life experience coming into a system with your philosophy, I think it's just a given that, and then with the things you'll put on paper, that even more change is coming because of those who are coming into the system.
I'm glad you said that, because more often than not, when I talk to students, I talk to them about the idea that the conversations that they can have about issues of race and equity and justice in the criminal justice system is significantly different than the conversations that I could have with a parent or a grandparent. Yeah. And so we're seeing that, they've come in with a much more progressive, engaged understanding. Exactly. They've lived in a much more diverse world. They've gone to much more diverse schools. They know about treating people as people first, as opposed to the stereotypes and the biases that are sometimes built. And they have been in spaces where they can confront that and call it and really have conversations and discussions. And so I think it is important for us as they join us within the system. My idea, and the reason I'm interested in Policy Revite, we've got people that have been here for 40, 45 years. We've got people that have been here for weeks. And some of those folks that are coming in for weeks have some of the best ideas about how to do this work. And we need to be able to capture that and ingrain that into our practice going forward. I'm sure that the folks that have been here, like myself, plus 30 plus years, we've got a lot of good ideas. But again, I think the creativity and the engagement in much of the newer staff we have to capture that and infuse it into the system.
Absolutely. Commissioner, I can't believe 40 minutes have went by already.
Seriously?
So yeah, it's 9:38.
Wow.
So time flies when you're having fun. It's always a pleasure to speak with you personally, but the confidence, and I think I mentioned this when you first came on, knowing that someone with your philosophy and approach is in a position that has so much influence on the demographic of which you and I represent, it's just very helpful and encouraging. And it helps my mental health, because when you're aware of the impact of people and systems that just don't take the same approach as you, as a Black man, it does wear on you, just knowing, and you see brothers and all the percentages and things that you named. And so as we get ready to wrap up, what is your perspective, or what would you like historians to write about your era when it comes to Black history in the trial court?
Oh man, this is difficult.
How about that?
my ego isn't that fragile, so I'm not really worried about what historians write. But what I will say is that here's an opportunity for somebody who's got the same lived experiences as many of the individuals. I've been stabbed. I've been shot in the ankle. I've been the victim of abuse. I know what it is to grow up in poverty. And what it says for me is that if you give people opportunities, you give people chances, if you allow people who have struggled, who knows what it is, that they've got lessons to share, things to offer. But my thing really is about second chances. It's about empathy and understanding. It is about, having people around who can mentor and serve and provide, sort of the guidance that is an important part of making the next kind of choices. Again, we're spending a lot of time in the 18 to 24-year-old space because that's our highest violation rate, recidivism rate, incarceration rate. And it isn't just here in Massachusetts, but, those are sort of the trends. We know a lot more about the brain science and the development. And so I think part of this really, if you look back upon it, really about a time where we really focus on providing treatment first, opportunities, and then really, the issue of accountability is always going to be there. We know that. We're really good at that stuff. Yeah. But we really want to open the system up to removing all of the barriers that people on probation have and that we as a society place. There are more than 40,000 restrictions. If you're convicted of a felony and a misdemeanor, we've got to drill down and allow people to come back and fully participate as citizens if they're on probation, if they're incarceration, and if they've ever made a mistake.
I can't wait till you come back. It doesn't have to be the 12 to 18 months, but come back soon and chat with us and keep us updated about what's going on. I do want to deviate to personal for a minute because I think some of your Bayesian family members, presumably, Pastor Marion said, "Commissioner, where are you from?" And then here comes Tashad. Hold on. I think Tashad may have the answer. Where did it go? Yeah, that's definitely a Bayesian accent for sure.
Yeah, I'm from Orange Hill, St. James in Barbados. I used to box for Barbados back in the
So Tashad,
early.
You may not.
Pastor Mary, she got it right.
She got it right. So, okay.
So you let her know if she's got. If she's got any roadie or mobby at the house, I am stopping by. So just send you the address. I'm coming by to grab some mobby and some roadie.
So, Sean, you just jacked up the whole end of the show. Commissioner, I am so proud of you, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you again for your philosophy and allowing your life experience to inform, what you're doing today. And it just is, again, refreshing to know that someone like you is in this position to have such an impact on so many. And so thank you for your humbleness. But when history looks back, I believe that your name will be mentioned in this change that is going on in this era of with so much fighting against us that you're ensuring. And the mayor mentioned it yesterday. They're getting ready to do a study on how racism has influenced and still, and I mean, this is almost a no-brainer, but they're going to track how the racism of the old days in Boston informed current policies and systems that are still remaining today. And because of this relationship with Boston and the state, that's going to be interesting.
Well, and maybe they'll look at redlining because that's been one of the single most destructive aspect of wealth and wealth generation and the ability for families, to live beyond, to rise up above their margins and really be successful. But I just want to give a shout out to all of my colleagues in the Massachusetts Probation Service and the Massachusetts Trial Court who work tirelessly every day to make a difference in the lives of people.
That's a good commissioner. Bigging up the staff and see, and it's genuine, but it also, you stepping into that leadership role wonderfully, sir.
They're my people, man. We got to recognize.
I want to know what we can expect from you when you leave probation, because I could see you in some policy influence spaces. I said that, y'all, not him. I said that. So I'm going to get you off the screen before I get in trouble, but I could see pulling a lever for you one day. Commissioner, thank you for being with us. And we'll talk soon.
I look forward to seeing you, Jimmy. We got to do lunch sometime, man. So let's.
We do have to, so I can really keep it real and not get you in trouble in your role on here. I appreciate you so much, brother.
All right, love you, man. Stay safe. Happy Black History Month.
I'll reach out, man. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Y'all, I had to get him off the screen because we need to get him in office. I don't know where he live or what. All right, I got to get off of here. Y'all know me. I will just say, I'll say it like this. When Black and brown people, women, marginalized communities begin to ascend in spaces, those who feel that our joining them in spaces is going to limit them, knock them out of the space, or disrupt the flow of their space, they get scared. And similar to what's going on in the change in probation and somewhat in other spaces, media is going through a change. And those that have traditionally led, moved, set the narrative for media have been primarily white men. And that is now changing. And that particular demographic is not happy. And I'll just say this to every Black and brown media person, journalist, give them folks a cape. Do the best that you can do and make them Superman. The way we tell our narratives through our life experience, similar how the commissioner's life experience is informing how he approaches policy when it comes to probation. We, Black, brown, women, LGBTQ, marginalized, those that are dealing with unique abilities, have every right to come into these media spaces and tell our story or ensure that others are told in a manner that is not filtered through what said traditional leading demographic does. Some of you may be wondering, James, what are you talking about? I will just say that on every level where there is success and diversity, there is almost, if not at the same level, more intensity of fighting the impact of said diversity. And I'll just leave that there for now, hoping, believing, and praying that I won't have to address it again. With that being said, everyone have a good day, and we will see you on Monday. Oh, today's my Friday. I don't have no music here, y'all. Yeah. Today's my Friday. I'll just say this. I know that there's some stuff going on. There's some stuff going on, and I am doing better at responding and not reacting. But I had to respond. Y'all mother's board and whatnot, y'all just keep all the Black and brown newscasters, the women newscasters, the journalists, Janae, Crystal, Megan, Yahoo, who else? What's the brother's name with the dreads? Adrian, Walker, producers, Lee Hill, Latoya Edwards, the good brother from Mass Live that wrote about me, Dart Adams, who else? Kawani, who else? The sister, I remember her Facebook name, but that also writes, I believe, for WBUR. When y'all see stories written, videos by Black journalists, brown journalists, women journalists, those journalists with the unique abilities LGBTQ journalists, share them, get them out there greatly. Legacy major media understands that the community voice and a lot of those that are led by Black, brown women, LGBTQ, all the spectrum that I talked about of those of us that have been marginalized are scared. Traditional TV, getting your information is no longer the model. We are in an age of digital entertainment where people can select and custom design where and how and who delivers their information. And I'll just say that because I need to get off of here before I get in trouble. So, y'all have a wonderful day. We will see you on Monday at 9 a.m. next week. Next week, y'all, is Black Love Week. Valentine's Day on Wednesday, Black History Month. We're bringing it together for Black Love Week. On Monday, Thaddeus Miles will be with us talking about Black love through Black joy. On Tuesday, is Aaron and Anthony on here? Let me check the list. We doing Black Love Week next week. On Wednesday, we got Pastors Latrell and Tyrone Chase. They're going to talk about their love. And on we have an author that's oh God, I can't remember. Anita, I believe Hilton is coming in on Tuesday, and then on Thursday we have someone coming in. Listen, let me tell y'all, on Friday, I need everybody to be here on Friday. I believe we're doing it 12 noon. The Davis men, Pops Davis and Anthony Davis, they're going to come in and talk about Black love from a father and son perspective. Get your tissue. We'll laugh. But next week is Black Love Week. So we need to see y'all here in the building. Thank you all so much for being here today. I actually got to be out somewhere in an hour. So Jimmy just wanted to share that I've raised over 10. I just want to share that I've raised over 1,050 in donations for Chile in less than 24 hours. Eternally grateful for the village. Love and blessings. Next week, I'll be reporting. Damn, you know, we could tap you in, Jesus. We need to get you ready anyway for the joining the Java show. We'll talk later. All right, y'all, I'm getting off of here. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Protect your peace. Eat and drink water. And we will see you Monday at 9 a.m. Peace, everybody. We may go live Friday from the mental health conference that I am at. All right. See y'all later. Peace.